News just coming in. There's an attack on Afghan Parliament building in Kabul. Loud explosions and gunfire heard inside the Parliament building. Gunmen have reportedly stormed the lower house of Parliament with several blasts going off in front of the building. Forces have been rushed to the spot. There's a gunfight that's underway. Initial media reports indicate that 6 blasts in total have been heard so far. And these are reports of an attack which initially was being reported as a standoff attack, but now there's gunfire being reported from even inside the Parliament building. And joining me now with the latest is India Today's Smita Sharma. Smita, 6 explosions both outside and gunfire inside the Parliament building. What's the latest?
Well, Gaurav, clearly this is an ongoing siege, of the building that symbolizes the advent of democracy in this conflict-torn country of Afghanistan. But, it's just a very initial reports really trickling in. We are having, in fact, to rely on the local TV stations that are beaming these visuals that we are cutting across live on our TV station as well. What we are learning is, of course, these are multiple attacks and with multiple, in fact, attackers really in place. They also seem to have positioned themselves in nearby buildings from where they are firing onto the Parliament building, which is in the heart of Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. Some local reporters, local TV stations also reporting that the member of parliament who were there in this lower house and some other officials, they have been evacuated to safer spots. But no confirmation as of now as to what really is the casualty that we are looking at or what really are the injuries really looking at. But this is an ongoing siege right now, and the Afghan forces also trying to take down the attackers, about whom we do not really have confirmation as to what could be their numbers and what are the kind of really weapons that they are using at this point.
Now, there are some reports that seem to indicate that Taliban has already taken responsibility for this attack. Is this premature? Is this Taliban claiming responsibility? Reports seem to indicate that these are multiple coordinated suicide bombers who have hit the Afghan parliament.
Well, Gaurav, yes, that could be right. But, as I said, that these are initial reports and there is, of course, a lot of mayhem. In fact, I was just trying to talk to some sources in Kabul. Now, these are intelligence sources and they also it's not clear whether Parliament really was the attack or the target was a nearby office. Because this attack also seems to have happened just as the Ministry of Defence nominee was about to enter Parliament to be introduced. So, the larger sort of the connivance, the larger objective here is something that will play out and will be, of course, clearer only after some time. For now, the priority definitely remains the evacuation of those members of parliament, people, who have, despite those constant Taliban threats and attacks and warnings, they have and fought elections. The President Ashraf Ghani, who is currently, of course, ruling Afghanistan with Abdullah as the CEO, their team of members of parliament. But we are learning that they have been evacuated to safety. But clearly, this is a massive attack, something I think which will take some time, of course, before these attackers are brought down. But also raising very serious questions about the vulnerability of this area, which otherwise should have been considered to be very, very high security, Gaurav.
This indeed is in the heart of the most secure part of Kabul in Afghanistan, but the latest reports that seem to be coming in seem to indicate that these are multiple suicide attackers who have attacked the Afghan parliament. The area, as you can see in these pictures, is being cordoned off. The special forces are only now arriving. The parliament security responded. There were several members of parliament inside. Some members of parliament reportedly have shrapnel injuries as parliament was evacuated. Smita Sharma speaking to her sources in Kabul and getting us the latest on this big story. The number of attacks in Kabul's most secure zone, Smita, have increased in the past 6 months, and this is a major cause for concern as US forces draw down in Afghanistan. There have been attacks on Indian interests in the heart of Kabul. The Americans have been targeted. Now the Afghan parliament being attacked.
Absolutely, and remember the parliament that we're talking about, these visuals is again something that the Indians helped build in Afghanistan, Gaurav. Also, it's always, it's an annual routine feature where we see, especially during April, the Taliban takes to the spring offensive, and clearly this offensive has now been upped to an extent where the targets are absolutely in the heart of the city. So far, it's usually the war-torn areas or, maybe the provinces like Herat or Kandahar that used to be considered unsafe. But with the drawdown of the forces, the international security forces, be it the ISAF or the U.S. troops, the NATO forces, there were questions, of course, which had been raised time and again, if the Afghan forces are capable enough to take care and protect their own institutions, their own city. Now, as far as this attack is concerned, we do not know. As of now, nobody has come forward to claim the attack. In the recent past, we have also seen, of course, terror incidents where more than one group is, in fact, have claimed to have actually sort of facilitated those attacks or, of claiming to be the perpetrators of those attacks. This is an area, remember, the U.S. annual country report of 2014, which was just released, that goes on to say that how the Afpak area still remains the safe haven for most terror groups. And while the Pakistan military on the Pakistan side has been acting, of course, against the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, which targets the Pakistani interests. But as far as the Afghan Taliban is concerned, or the Haqqani network is concerned, they still seem to find safe haven, especially in that Afpak area. So we will
aided and abetted by the Pakistan Army and the ISI is what the US has also pointed out, that state patronage to terror continues in pockets of Pakistan, including when it comes to attacking Indian interests. Lashkar-e-Taiba continues to enjoy state patronage in Pakistan. The latest that's coming in, Smita, from Afghanistan, the Taliban have claimed responsibility for this terror attack. Massive reinforcements have now been rushed to Afghanistan Parliament. Now, Taliban attacked Parliament in Afghanistan. There are 4 large bombs and 2 small explosions that have been reported from both outside and inside the Afghan Parliament. Several MPs have reportedly suffered shrapnel injuries. The Parliament is now being evacuated. There are reports of a gunfight inside the Parliament building, which means terrorists somehow have managed to gain access to the Parliament building, and this is extremely dangerous, Smita. So far, reports seem to indicate there were blasts, but a gunfight inside Parliament seems to indicate that terrorists have access to the Parliament now.
Could possibly be reports about infiltration amidst the forces. But again, remember, Gaurav, this is Afghanistan that we are talking about. And it's not the first time that terrorists, in fact, dressed as security forces have tried infiltrating institutions. This has been the case in the past too. But yes, clearly, when they attack the Parliament now, which is the symbol of hope really in a country like Afghanistan, which is seeing just so much of conflict, so much of war over the decade, especially post those 2001 attacks and, of course, then the American invasion. So this is a country where the Parliament is supposed to promise that new future, that new hope of Afghanistan. You have an Afghanistan president today and a first lady who, very unlike her predecessors, if you talk about Rula Ghani, is somebody who goes out, interacts with people, who listens to them, who takes forward their points of view. There are women legislators and lawmakers, but women lawmakers also in the past. Remember, the governor of Herat province, who was a woman at one time, she was also gunned down. So there have been women lawmakers who have been shot down. News, of course, coming in that the Taliban has now claimed responsibility for this attack, but we'll have to wait and watch in case that there is some other terror group that contradicts it by also coming forward to claim this is also the area where the Islamic State is reportedly on the rise. So, the lines are getting increasingly blurred between these terror groups, and perhaps the priority here obviously will remain to secure this entire area and make sure that the attackers are down. Gaurav?
Stay with me. I want to quickly bring in Ratab Noori of Tolo News, and Tolo News has been really quick with all facts on the story. Ratab, what more can you tell us about this attack on the Afghan Parliament? What's the latest?
If your question is to me, I couldn't hear your voice properly. I'll give you the latest update that some attackers have attacked our lower house, Parliament. Actually, the lower house and both the houses are at the same place, so they have attacked the parliament, and the war is still going on. Some attackers have placed in a building which is in front of the parliament, and there are no reports of casualties yet, but it says some MPs have minor injuries during the breaking of the glasses, and they have very small injuries.
Okay, and do we know the number of attackers and how they managed to get inside the parliament?
The number of attackers are not clear yet, but still the Interior Affairs Ministry, the spokesperson said that the police forces are on the place and they're trying to control the situation. All the security forces are together over there, and our special police forces are also on the ground, so they're trying to control the situation and fight back with those terrorists who are placed in the building.
Okay, and so some MPs have been injured. There was a terror threat.
I really can't get, I really don't have your voice.
Okay, Ratab, tell us more about how security forces are engaging with these terrorists.
Pardon?
We'll try and reestablish that line with Ratab Noori of Tolo News. Tolo News breaking a lot of information on this parliament attack in Afghanistan. Information seems to indicate that multiple coordinated suicide attackers have hit the Afghan parliament. Initially, there was a standoff attack. Rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs were fired at the parliament building. One report seems to indicate that there was a breach in the security cordon, and after the RPG attack, perhaps that is how terrorists managed to gain access. There are reports of gunfire even being reported from inside the parliament building in Kabul. Some lawmakers were injured. This is the lower house of the Afghanistan parliament. Some lawmakers, there was a meeting on. The deputy speaker was at the chair when this attack took place. Immediate evacuation process underway at the Afghan parliament. Smita, what more can you tell us now?
So, I'm learning from our embassy sources that as far as the presence of Indians is concerned, there is none so far in this parliament. But remember, there is a new parliament under construction which India is building for Afghanistan that is supposed to hand over. There, of course, things are calm, and there is nothing that is reported there. So as far as at least, in terms of the Indian casualties there, so far we've heard of none. But clearly, as I said earlier, that what is not clear is if Parliament really was meant to be the target, because there were also new Defence Ministry nominees that had to be introduced today in Parliament. Was that individual, in fact, the target? But this seems to definitely have been pre-planned and well-planned, because keeping in mind the number of multiple, in fact, attackers that are here who seem to have taken positions comfortably in and around the Parliament building. You know, they have positioned themselves atop rooftops in other nearby buildings also. It definitely goes on to show that there is more than one attacker here. There are multiple attackers here. A head count at this moment is not very clear, but it will take some time for these special forces. We will perhaps see a lot of these impact.
Okay. Smita, keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. I'm slipping into a quick break. At this stage, the latest information that is coming in, that these attackers, multiple suicide bombers